Hotep, and you say, Hotep. Okay, one more time. Hotep. Hotep. Hotep means we greet you with blessings of peace, love, and prosperity. My name is Starla Lewis, and this is...
And my name is Takima Mayasa, and we are Black Studies faculty. I'm the chair of the Black Studies faculty, and Starla is our emeritus faculty.
And I'm also wearing the hat of the San Diego community today. And we are so excited tonight because we have had the blessing to bring you an amazing, divine reflection of yourself. We have brought you genius, we have brought you heart, we have brought you sincerity, we have brought you a life well lived, just like yours. And M.K. Asante is professor at Morgan State University. He is an award-winning filmmaker. He has 3 books, and his latest book, Buck, is a bestseller. It is his memoir. And I'm hoping that today, when he shares with you, you'll see how your life story, your personal memoir, is filled with life lessons and blessings. You know, I always say, if you learn the lesson, you get the blessing. And so he's going to show you lessons well learned. He's also going to be at several other places. When you leave here, I'm going to tell you, you're going to be as excited as I am that you are here. And you're going to get on the phone, and you're going to call on your friend, and you're going to say, you better get down to the Jacob Center on Wednesday from 6 to 8, because you will get blessed. He is a blessing. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking. He has a long bio, world travel. Some of it you'll hear in his story, but without further ado, the brilliant, the talented, the beautiful, the powerful, the valuable, the inspirational M.K. Asante.
Please welcome him, San Diego.
What's up? How y'all doing? What's going on? Yo, do I need the mic? Do I need it? Okay, all right, I need it. All right, cool. What's up, y'all? How you doing? Before I start, you know I gotta just give much love. I don't even know how to come up after that introduction, but gotta give much love to Mama Starla and Mama Takima for bringing me out. You know, they've been, give them a round of applause, please. They've been so passionate and adamant about making this happen. They've inspired me, you know, through you know, I've inspired them through the book, and they've in turn inspired me. I remember I was here, what was that, 2009, 2008, that was my first time coming here. I wrote a movie with Maya Angelou called The Black Candle, and that was my first time in this facility, so it's good to be back. Thank you again for bringing me out here. Just want to appreciate y'all. Oh, and to the fam over there, you're like my extended fam now, so much love. All right, so how many people in here read Buck? Okay, that's what's up. I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about my story, where I come from, my journey. You know, Buck is, like they said, it's a memoir. So it deals with my story, my life. Growing up in Philadelphia, we called it Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. But you know, the first thing you notice about the book is the title, Buck. What does it mean? And for me, Buck is young buck, buck wild, buck shocked, buck town, slave buck, black buck, make buck, buck now. It represents so many things. I wanted a title that was going to represent a lot of different things, but not use a lot of space. You know what I mean? I didn't want some long academic title. I wanted something that was just going to basically hit you in the face. You know what I mean? Like when you see Buck, it's like, damn, what is that? And it represents so many things, right? I say young buck, right? That's what, you know, I'm a young buck. It's a young buck, young buck, young buck. I see young bucks all, you know, young buck, that's what they called me in Philly. You know what I mean? Young buck. Go to the store, get some Newports or something. You know what I mean? They would send me, old heads would send me to the store or whatever, so they called me young buck. Buck wild. That's part of just what happened in my life. You know what I mean? I'll talk a little bit about how I went buck wild. But definitely this book is got some buck wild elements to it, you know what I'm saying? Buckshots, when I say buckshots, I'm talking about the gun violence in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. You know, I live in Bodymore, Murderland now, Baltimore, Maryland. I'm talking about the gun violence that really decimates our communities, not just in the East Coast, but obviously out here, you know, everywhere, all over the country, you know, we see this. And it's not even just us, right, killing us, because I just saw another clip of the thing in, where was that this time? I'm not even talking about that one. It's another one, a new one. You see the new one? Where they, that was like in Mississippi, Alabama, or something like that? Where the guy who's selling the gun, and they said it was an accident. This is brand new. This is like every day. You know, we've been saying that this happens every day, all the time. But now it's just now because we have cameras and people are just seeing it, but we've been saying this happening every day. So anyway, buckshots, Bucktown. When I say Bucktown, that's an old school hip hop reference. You know what I mean? Hip hop is a fundamental part of this book, of my story. When I say slave buck, black buck, I'm talking about the references. You know, buck used to be a derogatory term used for black people. You know, so during slavery, they would say, you know, we got this big black buck for sale. And so buck was a derogatory term. So when I use buck in the contemporary context, I'm talking about how racism is still here with us today. You know what I mean? Don't let them fool you with all that post-racial, you know what I mean? So, you know, buckshot, slave buck, black buck, make buck. When I say make buck, I'm talking about the spirit of entrepreneurship. I'm talking about learning my education on classism and things like that. You know, really, you know, making buck, right? When I talk about buck now, I'll come back to that. But that's like one of the most important parts of the book, you know what I'm saying? Is the notion of bucking now, you know? And I wrote this book in a very, I wanted to write this book. I didn't want to look back at my life like now as a professor and look back and say, oh, back in the day I used to do this, I used to do this. I wanted to write a book that was immediate, that was urgent, that showed you my life as I saw it. So I wrote this book in the first person present tense. That means it starts when I'm 14 and you're seeing things through the perspective of my eyes. You're seeing them through my lens, right? And so I'll give you an example. I'll read a little bit from the book. How y'all feeling tonight? Y'all good? That's what's up. That's what's up. It's so nice. The weather's so nice. You're probably looking at me with this hoodie on. Like, he must be from the East Coast, but I'm about to take it off. So, this is the opening. The fall in Philadelphia. Outside is the color of cornbread and blood. Change hangs in the air like the sneaks on the live wires behind my crib. Me and my big brother Uzi in the kitchen. He's rolling a blunt on top of the source. The one with Tyson on the cover, rocking a kufi, ice grilling through the gloss. Uzi can roll a blunt with his eyes closed. He cracks, splits, and busts. The rawest crews in Philly are all three letters, he tells me. I read the cover through the tobacco guts of weed flakes. The rebirth of Mike Tyson. I'm not good, I'm not bad, I'm just trying to survive in this world. Awaken crews in a rude fashion, on the ass like Mike Tyson at a beauty pageant. So that line right there on Awaken crews in a rude fashion, on the ass like Mike Tyson at a beauty pageant, that's a random rap lyric. And so when you're reading this book, you'll come across these random lyrics. They're not random, actually. It's like when they tell you at the airport it's a random, they always stop me and say, oh, it's random. It's just not random. But anyway, you know, these are actually not random either. These lyrics just jump out throughout the book. And I wanted to really like classify what I was doing there as a writer, but also just as somebody who grew up, you know, under hip hop. So I say, I do this. I spit lyrics to songs under my breath all day, every day. The bars just jump out of me no matter where I am or what I'm doing. It's like I got hip hop Tourette's. So that's the thing, hip hop Tourette's, you know what I'm saying? Basically, the uncontrollable spewing of rap lyrics, you know what I'm saying? You just got bars jumping out of you at every time. How many people got hip hop Tourette's? Whatever. I know more people got hip hop Tourette's than that. Hip hop Tourette's is like you got, you know, lyrics in your head, you walking down the street, just randomly sing a song or something. So how many people got hip hop Tourette's? All right, yeah, that's, you know, it's a little bit more like it. So yeah, hip hop Tourette's is something I wanted to define these things that everyone I knew had growing up. I mean, I still have hip-hop Tourette's, you know what I'm saying? I'll just be walking around just singing songs or whatever. And I also wanted to define some of the other language, you know, that we use where I'm from. Like, for example, you ever heard of the word John? John? Oh, shout out to shout out to Andrew too. This is one of my students from Morgan State University. And I'm a professor at Morgan State University, and you know, he took my hip hop class. How was that class, man? That's what's up. That's what's up. Yeah. So, John, you guys never heard this word, John? Oh, that's amazing. So that's like a staple in Philadelphia language. You know what I'm saying? So if you say John, people will know you're from Philly. But let me explain it to you. So my brother's rolling this blunt, right? He folds, rolls, and tucks. Another perfect blunt. John looks like a paintbrush. See, John can mean anything, person, place, or thing. Sometimes if we're telling a story and we don't want people to know what we're talking about, we'll plug John in for everything. Yo, the other day I was at the John around the corner with the young John from down the street, right? We get to the John, right? And the boy at the door all on his John, not knowing I had that John on me. Man, it was about to be on in that John. So, you know, like, John is like, you know, it's such a beautiful word because it's only contextual. If you're not in the conversation, if we don't rock together, you have no idea. We got the John. Yo, what's up with the John? Yo, what's up with the John? You know what I mean? Yo, the John, yo, they go crazy. You know what I mean? Like, so you have no idea what someone's talking about unless you're supposed to know, you know? And it's so interesting. You know, I love language, I love etymology, I love looking at where things come from. And you know, if you think about the Black experience, a lot of times we don't really realize how brilliant Black slang and language is. Let me give you an example. Let me tell you why. You know, Black people in America come from all over West Africa, you know, mainly, right? And we were brought here enslaved, you know, brought here in chains and enslaved, right? And so one of the things we don't really think about a lot of times is that when we came from Africa, we were all different cultures and ethnic groups and religions and languages. You know, Africa's not a monolith. I've been to probably about 25 countries in Africa, 20 countries in Africa, you know, and I've had I was in Nigeria, that's just one country, and they speak like 300 languages in that one country. So you're talking about capturing African people of all different languages, all different cultures, right? And bringing them to America. And in America, they all have to learn the same language, which is English. But they didn't speak the same language in Africa. I might have spoke, you know, Fulani, you spoke Tree, you spoke some, you know, Hausa, whatever, like all these different languages, right? So, you know, so we get to America and we all have to learn English, right? Now there's a fundamental problem here. You know what I'm saying? What's the fundamental problem? The fundamental problem is the same motherfuckers teaching you English, the same motherfuckers got you in chains. You feel me? Like, that's the same, you know what I mean? Like, so you're teaching me the language, but at the same time, you're the same person that's got me in chains. So the language, all of a sudden, has this oppressive undercurrent to it, you know what I mean? Because you're only really teaching me the language so that you can tell me what to do. You know what I mean? So that I can follow orders and da-da-da-da. So how am I going to use this language? But the other thing about this language is it's the only language that connects me to you if we didn't speak the same language back in, you know what I mean, in Africa. So you can have a situation, I mean, I always tell this story, like, you can have a situation, and so what happens is African people start to develop ways to communicate with each other using that language, but what we call in Philly, freaking the language. You know what I'm saying? Like, we freaked it, you know what I mean? So you don't really know what we're talking about. So like, for example, you know, you can have a situation back in the day where you have like a plantation, you know what I'm saying? And somebody comes and they say, so you have a whole bunch of enslaved Africans, you know, we might be plotting for freedom or something. And it might be some slave masters somewhere over around, you know, listening. And somebody says, hey man, did you hear MK escaped slavery? And then somebody say, MK escaped? That's a bad nigga. Now, if the white slave master hears that, he's gonna say, yeah, he's a bad nigga because he escaped, right? But all the black people would know that if you say, that's a bad nigga, the emphasis on bad. So all of a sudden, we took that language and we know that that's really, no, I'm not bad, I'm actually amazing. I'm the shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, being a bad that's amazing and that's beautiful. And I'm actually like, you know, a Moses figure, right? So you have this language and then you start to freak it. And then as soon as a slave master, one day he's going to figure out, you know, when those guys say bad, they really mean good. You know what I'm saying? And then as soon as he figures that out, we don't say that shit no more. I mean, we don't use that language anymore. We flip it and we on some other shit. So, and that's kind of been like the cat and mouse game of the language. It's like as soon as you figure out what I'm saying, I don't even talk like that no more. You know what I mean? I have a new word. So anyway, I say that all in the context of John. So hopefully you'll integrate John into your lexicon now. You know what I'm saying? This story is very much a family story. This is about my family, you know. My brother is kind of the first character introduced in this book. My brother Uzi, Uwap, you know what I mean? Uzito, Wap the Culture, Cool D, Pinch P, got all these crazy names. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my brother. So, Uzi is the color of walnuts and has a long, sharp face like the African mask my dad hangs up everywhere. His name is Daoud, my parents call him Daoudi, and the hood calls him Uzi. He's got a bunch of other names too, like some superhero. Uwap, Daoud, Uzito, Wap the Culture, Cool D, Pinch P, Big U, Barkalark, Dropped him as Rhyme, Big Fly, and Still to Kill. So in this opening chapter, my brother's best friend, Ted, comes to the crib and has a stolen car. We call it a Johnny. And Ted is like, yo, Uzi, I got a Johnny, what's up? And my brother's like 17 at the time. Our brother thinks it's a good idea to go steal this car, or this car's already stolen. He thinks it's a good idea to go jump in. I'm like 13 at the time. I think it's a good idea too, and I want to roll. And this is what happens. And this is how it always goes. Me following Uzi in everything, everywhere, like his little black JanSport, covered in marks a lot, strapped tight to his back, koala style. Anywhere, any place. He does it, I do it. He tries it, fuck it, I'm trying it. He can't shit, why can't I? Sometimes I even duck like him under doorways, even though he's way taller, and I don't even need to duck. I guess I just do it because Uzi's more than my big brother. He's my idol. I follow him to sweaty Badlands house parties that always end in crazy shirtless rumbles with everybody hollering, North side, in the middle of the street. To Broad and Rockland to cop dime bags from one of the dusty bodegas with nothing but baking soda and expired Bisquick on the shelves. To freestyle ciphers on South Street that the nut-ass police always break up for no reason. To crack on Johns, getting off the L at 69th Street like, yo, let me holler at you for a minute. To scale the fence to watch Sad Eye, the Jordan the street ball, hoop at 16th and Susquehanna. To skate the ledges and steps at Love Park till we get chased away by the cops. To bomb the Orange Line subway with Sharpies and Kiwi polish sticks. And now to joyride through Philly in a stolen wheel. Being with Uzi makes me feel invincible. Like nothing bad can happen to us. Like nothing and nobody can hurt us. I feel unfuckwittable. Unfuckwittable. You guys ever felt unfuckwittable? It's a question. Who feels like that right now? That's what's up. That's what's up. It's a good feeling. That's how my brother made me feel, you know? And I wanted to just capture his essence, you know, because the opening of this story, opening of my memoir, opening of my years as a 13-year-old were filled with my brother being this larger-than-life hero, you know? And things changed dramatically in my family, you know? My brother gets arrested in this opening chapter. And that just changes my whole family dynamic, really, you know? My parents have really interesting stories themselves. Their memoirs would be crazy. My mom is from Brooklyn, New York. And she's city. She grew up in destitute poverty and used education and dance. She's a dancer. Used that as a way to get out of the conditions that she was in. She's working since she was like 8 years old, scrubbing floors for white people in Long Island. My father is one of 16 children. Grew up in a small shack in Valdosta, Georgia. And he's got the more, you know, my mom is more city, my dad is more kind of got a country vibe, you know, or a southern vibe, you know. But they met in Buffalo. They both were educators. They both believed in revolution and Africa, and they connected on a lot of levels. But by the time we come about, by the time this story takes place, they've really gone separate ways, you know. And my brother's incarceration is one of the things that kind of further, you know, puts them apart, because my mom's thing is we gotta help him, you know. And my mom was always trying to help my brother and get out of this situation. And my dad was just like, you know, like, he made his bed, let him lay in it, you know what I'm saying? And so there was this rift, you know what I mean, between them, and they fought a lot because of that. My mom also suffered from, you know, severe mental health issues. You know, so growing up, my mom was very suicidal. There were a lot of times where I caught my mom, you know, trying to overdose or do things to kill herself, you know? And so what I did in this book was, and this is one of the most powerful elements of the book to me, my mom used to write this diary, this journal, right? And for a lot of years, me and my mom didn't really talk, right? Because she was always in this weird state of mind, and I was wilding out. So I was doing my thing, and she was doing her thing. We didn't really communicate, and so my mom would write these journal entries, and I would actually sneak and read my mom's journal just to see like what she was talking about. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes she would talk about me and my brother, and I was just curious, you know. So I would read her journal entries just to see like what she was talking about, and in this book, I've actually integrated my mom's journal entries into the book so that you can hear her voice too and what she was going through. And kind of some of the things that I write about, you kind of get a different perspective. I'll give you an example of one of my mom's entries, because they're very, you know, imagine writing, you know, if you guys write a diary or journal, you know, you really don't expect anybody to ever read that, you know what I mean? It's just for yourself. And then imagine finding out that your son is reading it, you know what I'm saying, which happens in the book. Okay, so here's like the first journal entry I ever read from my mom. And she always wrote, both my parents changed their name to African names, but when my mom wrote the journal entry, she always wrote to her former name, which was Carol. So she says, "Dear Carol, I never took drugs, even though they were all around me. I don't really count smoking weed as a drug." Me neither. But Bob was a heroin addict, and my brother Jabbar has been a crack addict on and off, so I know drugs. But the drugs prescribed for my depression are a different story. They serve the same purpose as crack or heroin, a way of escaping, of turning away from the pain, and an excuse to leave the planet momentarily. My drugs are legal, but the result, the high, feels the same. It doesn't make much sense to me that a doctor could know what medicine to give someone for depression anyway. Depression is so specific, so historical, so particular. How could a pill deal with all that? The pills don't deal with any of that. All they do is make time go by, dulling my senses and making me sleep. Taking my meds is like putting a sign on my door that says, unavailable. It works. The only person to ignore the sign is Milo, and I'm Milo, by the way. Only person to ignore the sign is Milo. At least when he was younger, he ignored the sign. But now, as a teenager, he keeps his distance and tells other people, Mom don't feel well. Milo is staring at a woman who doesn't seem herself. It's not that I'm not myself, but I buried myself so that I don't feel any pain. Daoudi doesn't get it, and it makes him angry. Milo accepts it, even if he doesn't get it. I'm in my bedroom, either in bed or in my chair, but always out of commission. I'm in a fog, and I prefer it that way. There are moments when I can function, but the point is, I don't want to function. I want no part of this life. The pills aid my escape. Sometimes I take more than I'm supposed to. No one knows what I'm taking, just the doctor. I keep stockpiles, always making allowances for that special day when I might need to permanently leave. Leaving has been on my mind most of my life. My first attempt at suicide was at 12. And then she goes on and on. And so these journal entries are interspersed throughout the book. And so you're getting multiple, to me what's so important about this work is that you get multiple perspectives, you know, on life and on the story, you know. You're probably wondering like why these are in here, you know, and how they got in here, and if she, you know, my mom wanted us to have this conversation. My mom wanted black folks, people of color, to talk about mental health issues, because we usually don't. There's usually a taboo around it. And so when I was writing this book, my mom had a crazy idea. She was like, you know, I know you're writing, Buck. It's like, I just want to let you know, if you want to use my journal entries, like, go for it. And I was like, wow, like, you know, like, that was a blessing for me. And I was like, why would you want to, you know, first of all, I got in trouble when I read them, you know what I'm saying, back in the day. So I'm like, how you going to just give them to the world now? Like, you know, but she was like, you know, this conversation isn't being had, and I want to have this conversation. I want people to see what it's like. I want people to get inspiration from my story, too. And so I was like, word. So I use, you know, so that's how the journal entries got in here. And yeah, so I used to read my mom's journal. My brother also, you know, he gets incarcerated. It's really the beginning of his incarceration, that first auto thing, you know, and he gets incarcerated again and again. And so my brother's letters from prison are also in the book, interspersed. And it's real interesting because you get a chance to see his coming of age in prison and kind of how he developed and changed and the advice that he gave me and what he saw. Meanwhile, in Philly, I'm just going buck wild. You know what I mean? My dad is left. My mom is in this state that you just read about. And so what's attractive to me is 10 G's. And I'll tell you what 10 G's is. I walk up to the corner of 10 G's where all the Uzi's boys chill. They stand where they always stand, between the liquor store and the corner store, next to the Fern Rock Apartments fence, under the train tracks, and across the street from Rocksteady. This bug dude who sits with a crate all day with a broken radio, rocking his head back and forth to a beat no one else can hear. My mom calls them the corner boys because they're always out there, posted like guards at a checkpoint. They hug the block, huddled and hustled, eyeing everything and everyone, everywhere, every day. So yeah, the corner boys were like, the corner boys. I think you get it, you know what I mean? And they were all much older than me, and so I gravitated toward them. They kind of became like big brothers. And they exposed me to, you know, everything you don't want your 13, 14-year-old doing, you know what I mean, and being exposed to, you know? So, but at a young age, it was like, it was on, you know what I'm saying? And that created a lot of trouble for me, created a lot of stress for my family, my mom. I got kicked out of every school that I went to, which is, you know, now I'm a professor, a tenured professor. So it's kind of crazy, you know, just when I think about that sometimes, because coming up, you know, it was like one school after another, after another, after another, going to all these different schools. And I learned a lot about education. And really, Buck is a book about education. And when I say education, I'm not talking about school. Buck is a book about miseducation first. It's about re-education. It's about self-education. It's about street education. It's about the difference and the distance between school and education. You know what I'm saying? Because they're not always the same. And that's what Buck is really about. It's about my education from all these different places, you know. It was really unorthodox, but that's what it is. It's a book about education. And so I'm in this situation. My brother's locked up. You know what was going on with my mom. My dad moved out of Philadelphia to a place called Levittown. And shit is just going, it's just, everything's going wrong. You know, I had a best friend named Amir who got shot. I was there when he got shot. And he died, he passed away. Rest in peace, Amir. And like, there was just a lot of things going on that were just kind of spiraling downhill. Really, just, you know, I write about it. I actually have a soundtrack coming out May 14th for the book, where we created like a lot of original music. I wish we could drop a beat right now. I would just, you know what I mean, spit some. But yeah, I mean, MK from the city of the Fresh Prince, where they carried them Wessons and Will Smith. Real shit, gotta deal with. Tripe, broken bodies under street lights. Middle of the night, still can't get right, cause we got vision, but we lost sight. Like how I had a best friend, but he lost life. Senseless, cause niggas was scentless. Stripe for destruction, so seductive, got half the parts, but no instructions. So they looked the part, but lacked substance. On my raps, cat hearts like your favorite cousin, and BuzzFeed even said my buzz was buzzing. Did what the pundit said I wasn't. Repudiated the repugnant, like Douglas, yeah. And I write for young bucks in the ghetto, illustrating life on a higher level. Teach them how not to settle through the treble. Problem with authority, always been a rebel. Rose from concrete, always been a pedal. Saying fuck, fear and doubt, always been the devil. Back when my own squad was like whatever. Never doubted endeavors to better my cheddar. Mind caught it on whatever, whenever, whoever. Young boy, holy cow, tough in the leather. Make it rain on the homeless, no umbrella. Summertime living easy, sang Ella. Hotel Fitzgerald, nigga, the views is stellar. Reading Fitzgerald, my nigga, and knowing I'm better than the veterans. MK, Letterman, dopamine like instant messaging. I don't remember the rest. Uptown with the sunrise, George Jackson, blood in my eye, make the sun cry, School of Hard Knock alumni. I'm on some other shit like boarding the mothership. Shelf your speech, nah, we don't do governments. Kill the ads, death to fake governance. I send Congress to the same place my brother went. Chain gang, hellbound, state penitent. Killerdale, pistol bang, yeah, we militant. Nobody break up fights, too busy filming it. Fiends nod to beat to despair, feeling it. City ice cold, but still ain't got no chill in it. Old heads shaking their heads in bewilderment. At young bucks going buck wild in the wilderness. Survival mode, hackers living by code. Taxes tapping the phones, kids dying by drones. I spark a relevant, inhale the scene and pen a poem about the smart project teen all on her own. Labeled less, just cause she ain't got no home. And growing up so alone, got her down to play grown. Told her keep your head up, beloved, claim your throne. Those are just little things from the Buck soundtrack, which is coming out May 14th. So I might share some more gems with you as I go on. But back to the story. So I'm wilding out, and look, the book is written in a real raw way. I'm gonna let you read the raw parts, you know what I'm saying, so you can just kind of vibe out to it. But you know, the book, like, there's what I didn't want to write a book that was watered down at all. Like, I didn't want to have, you know, scenes of, like, you know, PG. I just wanted to write what really happened. So the book is raw, and so there's a lot of darkness in the book, you know. There are periods of darkness, there are periods where you're like, damn, this young boy is just wilding out, you know what I mean, which is what was happening. And I write about that very honestly, openly. I want to kind of get to some of the things that changed, that helped me kind of change my life in a lot of ways. So there's a couple different things that happened. I mean, from me understanding that what we were doing, me and my brother, was having an effect on my mom, her mental health. You know, that was one thing, one factor. Hold on, it's hot as shit. Woo. Not in Philly no more. Yeah, so I mean, it was like 30 degrees when I left. So I'm not used to this nice weather. But yeah, you know, for me, realizing that, also I had an uncle who was very influential, my Uncle Howard. He passed away, but he was very influential. Me and my homie, we were like 16, 17, and we drove to Texas from Philly. My homie was on the run, he had an APB out on him, and we decided to just bounce to Texas. I had a cousin there. And when I got to Texas, a whole lot of things happened. But my uncle gave me a book, we talked, he didn't judge me. I think that's one of the things I really dug about my uncle is, like, he was an old head and he knew that we were doing some wild stuff, but he came at us from a loving place and he didn't judge us, you know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of times people just judge you and say, oh, you did, you know. He didn't really do that, and I always respected him for that. But while I was in Texas, my mom OD'd, and I got the call, and I had to go back up to Philly. We drove back up to Philly. On the way back up, Jordan got arrested in Virginia, of course. I don't know if you guys you know about Virginia, yo. Woo! Yeah, Virginia is vicious, man. To this day, I still don't like driving through Virginia. But anyway, I get back up to Philly, and my mom is in the hospital. She's alive, but she's been through a lot. She's got tubes and monitors all on her. She was very close to death, and we just started having like some real conversations, you know. Me and her hadn't really connected in a long, long time, you know. And a lot of crazy stuff had happened. My mom kicked me out the house, you know. I was doing all types of stuff with, like I said, with the corner boys. I was, selling all types of stuff, and guns and violence and just everything you could, like I said, imagine. And so my mom kicked me out the house. It was a lot of turbulence, you know what I'm saying? And my mom told me at that in the hospital, she's like, I really want you to go to school. Education is your passport to the future. And up until that point, school for me was like, it was kind of pointless, you know what I mean? Like rote memorization, regurgitation, like teachers who don't want to be there, they don't want to teach. I mean, I even have one chapter called The Pipeline, right? Because, what I learned in my life is that, some schools prepare kids for college and, for trades or whatever. And then there's other schools you know, a lot of times in urban areas that are really preparing kids for jail. You know what I mean? And they're designed like that. They're built like that. I mean, in Philadelphia, you have schools that, you have private prison companies that are getting the test scores from the schools to determine how many prisons they're going to build in the future. They're getting this information so that they can determine how many prisons they're going to build. So in the chapter called The Pipeline, I say, we pour in the fells high like syrup, steady and slow. This school looks just like jail. I wonder why mad schools look like jails, or do jails look like schools? The jail Uzi's in is actually nicer than this. If schools look like prisons, and prisons look like schools, will we act like students or prisoners? Police roam the hallways whirling nightsticks like band directors. The windows are tinted with bars, no sunlight like a casino, and you never went in here either. At my old school, friends, the teachers always fucked with me. At Fells, the teachers don't know who the fuck I am. It's overcrowded like Amistad. Fells is the opposite of my old school, friends, foes. They say Foes is one of the best schools in the city. They say Fells is one of the worst. Foes private, Fells pub. Foes mostly white, Fells mostly black. Foes kids' parents got tuition money. Fells kids' parents ain't even got lunch money. The metal detector line is long like the line to get into club dances on Saturday nights. A bucket full of lighters, nail files, pocket knives, everybody beeping, police digging through bags like moles. It takes forever to get in. The hallway is a fashion show. Motherfuckers won't even come to school if they ain't got something fresh to throw on. The bell goes off like we're in some factory somewhere. Here. First period. I think this is homeroom. The teacher never shows up, so no one really knows. Girls just sit and do their makeup and hair. I dip in and out the pissy hallways. And so I describe each period, but what you realize real quick is that there's no learning going on here. The teachers don't want to be here. It's overcrowded. You know, it becomes a point where there's so many students in a class, it just becomes about like maintaining order. You can't actually teach anything when you got 60, 70 kids in a classroom. All of them have some, need some attention, you know what I mean? And you got one teacher who's just like trying to survive for real, at that point. So I write about that pipeline, which is important. And I write about it from the perspective of a kid who's in that system. So that was my experience in school. So when my mom is like pushing school on me, I'm like, I hear her, but it's kind of going out the other ear. So the first thing I told my mom was, look, I would go to school, but no school would take me. Because at that time, I got kicked out of this school, Fells, which was like one of the worst schools in the city. So if you get kicked out of Fells, you basically don't have any other options, right? So I was like, Mom, I would go, but ain't nobody else would take me, right? So my mom, I told you she's from Brooklyn. She's real resourceful, you know what I'm saying? So she was like, well, if I find a school that will take you, will you go? And I'm like, sure, whatever, you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying this at this time to appease her. She's in the hospital. She got tubes all up in her. I'm not about to make the machine start beeping, you know what I mean? So I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll go if you find a school. But I knew she wasn't really gonna find a school, you know what I'm saying? Like, anyway, a couple weeks later, my mom's at the hospital, and she, of course, found a school, right? And she told me, she's like, I got this school I want you to go to. It's an alternative school. I'm like, all right, whatever, you know what I'm saying? I'm back at the crib now. We're in Germantown. We lived in this, my mom called it a concrete monstrosity. But it was this big, ugly, brown building. It looked like the building on Good Times. And so we're up in there, and my mom's like, I found this school, it's an alternative school, and I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. So some of the schools I went to look like factories, prisons. This school I went to, visually it looked like a gingerbread house, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't even know what a gingerbread house was really until I saw this school. But it looked like a gingerbread house. And I remember I walked up to it, and I started looking at the people going into the school, and I'm like, yo, this is like a weird environment for real. You know what I mean? Like, this was some of the weirdest kids I've ever seen in my life going into this school. One kid was banging his head against the wall, and I'm not even done. Y'all laughing. I'm not even done. He was banging his head against the wall and using his own blood to make a painting. Like, he had a canvas and everything. He was banging and then using the blood. And I'm like, hold on. Stop everything. I'm like, look, y'all you say this is an alternative school? I'm not this damn alternative. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was my thing. Like, I'm not alternative like this. You know what I'm saying? Just, you know, I might be wilding out, but this is a whole nother level of wilding out. Like, you know, so anyway, I stayed up in there, you know, I mean, that was my first day I saw that. So I went to this school. I wasn't really feeling it. Lots of different types of people with weird ideas and weird hair and just different painted. You know what I mean? Like, no, they were just, you know what I mean, right? It was like, kind of like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, like the school kid version, you know what I mean? So anyway, but something happened to me while I was at that school that I want to share. An experience happened to me. I'm in this class, this creative writing class, and this teacher, she like, it's an English class actually. She put blank pieces of paper in front of everybody, and she told the class like, okay, everybody write. So I haven't done schoolwork at this point in my life in like a couple years, you know what I'm saying? Because now I'm like, I had not been in school. When I was at school, I was at Fells and I was at Rush, and none of those schools required me to do any work. So I hadn't even used like that part, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, so I just sit there. I'm not doing the work. I'm just sitting there, and everybody else is kind of start scribbling fast like reporters at a news conference or something, you know what I mean? But I'm just chilling. And teacher comes over to me and she's like, write. I'm like, now I'm annoyed. She's annoying me now, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, what you want me to write? She's like, write anything you want. I'm like, whatever. I knew she was not being sincere, you know? People say things like, oh, write it, tell me how you feel, and then you tell them how you really feel, and then what? It's a problem, right? Like when people, if you really tell people how you feel, like they don't always want to know that. So she's like, write anything you want. And I'm like, whatever. Anything? She's like, anything you want. So you know what I wrote first? Fuck school. You know what I mean? Like, of course, like, I don't want to be here. I hate this place. Like, yo, just whatever. So, and I knew that if I wrote that, she would kick me out. I didn't want to be there anyway. I would go, you know, and hang out with my boys or whatever. So I just wrote that, and I just waited for her to kick me out. And she looked at it, and she was like, good. Now keep going. I was like, damn, she got me. So I want to read to you a little bit about what happened after that. Okay, so I turn the page over. It's blank again. The blank page is a starter pistol that fires and triggers my mind to sprint. Damn, what will I write? What will I say? Will I say what I write what I say? Something funny? Something serious? What about something about my family? Something about Amir? How will I start? Whose story will I tell? My story? What about a story about a boy from Philly, a lost boy who wants to find himself but doesn't know where to look, who wants to tell his story but doesn't know where to begin or end, who searches anyway and discovers something about himself, about the world? I stare at the blank page, an ocean of white, alive with possibility. I hear myself take a breath, then exhale deep like I just rose from underwater. It's like I'm at the free throw line again. Foul shots, like the game is on the line again. I remember something my pops told me, shoot to make it. My hand's shaking now, trembling like it's freezing. Then it hits me, a silence louder than all the music I've ever heard in my life. All the light in the world in one beam before me. I grip the pen and something shoots down my spine, sits me straight up. The pen feels heavy like it's made of stone. At exactly which point do you start to realize that life without knowledge is what?
Life without eyes.
That's a good guess. You just made that up?
Yes.
That's a pretty good guess. But nobody's ever heard that song? At exactly which point do you start to realize that life without knowledge is... Somebody said it. Speak up. What'd you say? She said it? Yeah, there you go. That's the thing about the lyrics, you know, when I integrate the lyrics, and if you know the song, then you can kind of like respond. But yeah, that's a Black Star line. At exactly which point do you start to realize that life without knowledge is death in disguise? I stare deep into the blank page and see myself. I feel something I've never felt before. Purpose. Yo, I don't know what my exact purpose is yet, but I know it has something to do with this pen and this blank page. I am a blank page. Holding the pen this way, snug and firm in my fist, makes me feel like I can write my future, like I can spell out my destiny in sharp strokes. Blank page saved me, America enraged me. Then that bitch paid me, new slaves, old slavery. Grandma told me streets far from holy, now I'm lonely, my homies' bodies is holy. Oh me, sheesh. I don't know the rest of that. But hold on, I'm not done. The blank page begs me to tell a story. It dares me to tell one that's never been told before, and to tell it like it will never be told again. The blank page lights up a room in my heart that I didn't even know existed. And so the blank page kind of just sparked a lot in me just to start writing. And at first it was just like venting and writing curse words and stuff like that. And then it evolved into really me thinking about my story. Then it evolved into me wanting to be a good writer, and in order to be a good writer, having to be a good reader. And I remember I had this epiphany. I'll share it with you. The epiphany was something like this. Because I started reading. I started reading a lot, like a book a day. And I became a voracious reader. And I felt like I had a lot of lost time to make up, you know what I mean? Because for years, I didn't read anything, you know what I mean? I didn't do any work. I was just completely just out there. So I felt like I had to play catch up. But I had this epiphany one day. I'm like, oh, now I see why reading was illegal for black people during slavery. See, I always used to hear like that reading was illegal, right? For black people during slavery. I heard that. That was like something the old heads told me, my parents told me. But I never really thought about it, you know what I mean? Like, and then I got locked up, which I write about in the book. And I started thinking about it like, damn, you could really back in the day be in jail, right? You sitting there, you know, somebody come in, like, yo, what you in here for, dog? Like, yo, man, I was on chapter 8. And they just kicked the door down, you know what I mean? Like, damn, like you really got locked up, you really got booked for a book, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's crazy, like, it's a crazy thought, you know, to actually get locked up for reading. You know what I'm saying? Like, they chase you, like you run, like, ow, like, yo, like you in the book club, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, somebody like, woo-hoo! Like, yo, we out, like, yo, you start running and shit, like, yo, that's crazy, like, for reading, though, you know? That's really a powerful, so it shows you. So anyway, my epiphany, back to the epiphany. Now I see why reading was illegal for black people during slavery. I discovered that I think in words, I sub-vocalize. The more words I know, the more things I can think about. My vocab and thoughts grow together like the stem and petals of a flower. Reading was illegal because if you limit someone's vocab, you limit their thoughts. They can't even think of freedom because they don't have the language to. I think about all the dudes I know with limited vocabs, the ones who keep asking, I mean, because they don't have the words to express what they really mean. Woke this morning, claimed victory. Velcro that good energy so it stick to me. Sun shining so that shade don't get to me. It's a new day, I'm seeing things differently. Like maybe some things wasn't meant for me. Or maybe they just wasn't meant to be. Always rep, benchmark consistency, consistently. FedEx with the delivery. Open doors for hip hop, that's chivalry. Flow take you another place, that's Tennessee. That triumphant thumping you could run with. They said it can't be done, but we done it. My life a memoir, buck, kept it 100. Feel the shift, pinky the keyboard. Them devils shook cause I don't spit for little rewards. I spit for little cuz booked across 3 wards. Dreams of seashores, but sure never seashores. Navigate like Miss Jakes through life's detours. Banger right at the light and round the applause. Thank you, far too kind. Man, they can't see us winning, that's far too blind. Dreams of light still peeking through faulty blinds. My Philly boys really sharper than porcupines. So what's up? We trying to find a cookout. Look out, young bucks get took out on that cook route. Got bad Jones pulling my good book out. So I had this epiphany. It started to change my world. It started to open up new opportunities and ideas, and I started to feel myself transforming. I started to, like in the book, you'll see, it wasn't like easy to just, oh, I found a blank page and then all of a sudden everything is all good. It definitely was a lot of things that were still going on in my life that were problematic, and I write about those. I want to kind of come back to that notion of Buck Now, and then I want to open it up for questions. So I talked about Buck Now, right? And what that's really about. I also want to say, like, one of the things that happened in this book is, like, toward the end, like I said, my brother, you kind of hear his voice, throughout the book, and mainly it's from prison. My mom, you hear her voice through the journal entries. My dad, you don't hear my dad's voice a lot throughout the book. We were on very bad terms during this period of my life. Toward the end of my high school career, into this book, because this book ends when I'm like 18. Toward the end of it, we had a big confrontation, and it really helped us. I was actually in jail, and what happened was, I won't tell you the whole story, but I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Everybody says that, right? But I was in the wrong place, wrong time, and I spent the weekend in the 35th precinct. And in there I was like, decisions lead to options, options to choices, choices to freedom. We all design our own reality, write our own script, build our own house, or prison, or coffin. Me against law and order is about being a true rebel, pushing against the grain, making my own path, bucking the system. I think about this show I saw on the Nature Channel the other day about elephants, about how despite weighing up to 25,000 pounds and standing 13 feet tall, they can still be chained. How, I wondered. It starts when they're babies. Some asshole puts a metal chain attached to a wooden peg nailed into the ground around the baby elephant's foot. The baby elephant struggles but fails to break free and learns at that very moment not to struggle. That struggle is useless. Later on, even when the elephant can easily break free, it doesn't. I look around the 35th precinct at all of these sad, hard, gray, black faces and see nothing but elephants. And that's really what Buck to me is about those elephants realizing their power. Like, these chains aren't even holding us. You know what I'm saying? When you realize that, damn, there's not even a chain, the chain doesn't even exist. Like, I could easily, like, once the elephant recognizes that, it's a wrap. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's the real energy of Buck is about that. It's about bucking the stereotypes. It's about bucking the traps that are set for us. It's about bucking the conventions. It's about creating your own path. You know what I mean? And so that's what Buck means to me. My pop actually picked me up from jail that day, and I hadn't seen him in a long time. And Broad Street is like, if you guys ever been to Philly, Broad Street is like the big street in Philly. You know, in Philly, it's kind of like New York. You know, a lot of people on the street. You know what I'm saying? So you just ride down Broad Street, and you just, that's a movie in itself. Just Broad Street. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're gonna see every type of character out, you know what I mean, just on the street, just wilding or whatever, lots of businesses and stuff. So me and my dad on Broad Street, he just picked me up from the 35th precinct. We hadn't talked in a long time. He was mad at me. I was real mad at him. You know, I saw him leave my mom, and I had a lot of anger toward him. And we're driving, and my pop was like, yo, you want to fight? I'm like, yeah, I really do. So he pulls the car over on Broad Street. That's what I'm saying. Like, Broad Street is like it's not like a little side street. It's like, it's popping, you know what I mean? Like, it's all types of people out there. So we get out the car, and we just start rumbling. You know what I'm saying? Like, we just start fighting, me and my dad. And it's like, if you know my dad, it's kind of a crazy image, but we started fighting, and it ended in a real positive way, though. You know, it wasn't like a street fight, how some people fight someone on the street. It was a father-son type of fight, and ended with him kind of embracing me, and, you know, us really just needing each other, really. and kind of reconnecting. And that's kind of the beginning of a new chapter for us. And so the book isn't like totally a happy ending and everything is neat and beautiful, but by the end of the book, you do realize what inspires me, and you kind of see my trajectory, you know, and you see that I've cut a lot of the negativity out, and really, you don't know what's gonna happen, because like I said, it ends when I'm 18, but you do know what's gonna happen because I'm here today. So thanks for listening to my story, my journey. And now we can just open up for questions and have a dialogue about it. If there's anything you want me to talk about, questions you have, comments, things you want me to, stuff you want me to spit from the soundtrack. I got a lot of lyrics from the soundtrack in my head, so I can spit any of that. Just open it up. Thank you. Who's first? Yes.
Do you have another book coming?
I do. I'm working on a lot of stuff. I always have books coming, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I have another memoir that I'm excited about. It's called Go. And that's a memoir. I've traveled to over 40 countries, and that's a travel memoir. It's about the necessity of going, the necessity of leaving where it's comfortable, and getting out there and seeing new things. And it's about me searching for someone in particular, someone who's one of the most special people in my life. Was like a mother to me searching for her throughout Southern Africa. And so it takes place mainly in Southern Africa, a little bit in Europe, but it's a memoir about travel and about going and about seeing new things. And I'm real excited about that because it's very different for me. So that's one of the books. I have another book called The Blank Page, which is about creativity in all fields, across all walks of life, and the necessity of creativity. You know what I mean? Thinking outside the box, you know, thinking without a box, really. I have another project called Gods in the Hood, which is named after, so I did my first, I appeared on my first song ever last year. You know, before that, I was a writer, author, filmmaker, professor, but a poet even, but not a rapper. But last year, Talib Kweli, Razkaz, they hit me up and they were like, yo, we got this song and we want you to get on it. And it was crazy because they say, you know, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Before they even contacted me, I was writing rhymes for the Buck soundtrack. I don't know what prompted me to do it, but I was just writing rhymes for the Buck soundtrack. So they hit me up like, yo, we want you to be on this joint. And so I made this song with Talib called Gods in the Hood. You can see the video, we shot a video for it. And that was my first song. And so, so to me, so I'm writing this book called Gods in the Hood, which is actually about the paradigm shift in hip hop. Because I believe there's a very powerful shift going on in hip hop. It's really happened already, but it's continuing to happen. I feel like I'm a part of it. A lot of people here on the West Coast are a part of that shift. You know what I mean? There's a kind of a shift that's changing in terms of what people want, what people need, and what artists feel like obliged to do. And you really see it in the lyrics. You know what I mean? We have a lot of artists right now in hip hop that are elevating the culture. You know, and that hasn't been true for the last 10 years or so. So this is like a new shift, and we're kind of going back to the roots of hip hop, right? When we talk about hip hop, when we talk about its origins, we're talking about it being a voice for the voiceless. We're talking about it being a fifth element, it being something that elevates and empowers and inspires and takes us to another level and opens up that third eye. And for a while, I wasn't really doing that, but now we see not only the artists doing that, but the audience responding to that, the fans wanting that, you know what I'm saying? So that's why we have, you know, our Kendricks and Coles and people like that, and so many more people who are elevating the culture. So Gods in the Hood is about that shift. It's also about how technology plays a role in that shift, or played a role in that shift. Yeah.
Who's your inspiration?
I'm inspired by a lot of people, man. Honestly, I was telling you earlier, I was inspired by, you know, Mama Starla and Mama Takima for bringing me here, and just the energy that they brought, and the energy, everything that they've been doing, and the kind of the spirit that they have. I'm inspired by all types of people, you know what I mean? Just people that I meet just on a random tip, you know what I mean? I'm inspired by great artists, you know, who you might know. I'm inspired by great artists whose names you'll never know, you know what I'm saying? Because they just on the block, you know? So I'm inspired by just life, you know? Like, it's really, I'm not singular in my inspiration. I get inspiration from the sun. Like, when I got off the plane today, I was like, yo, this is what I need, you know what I'm saying? So, like, I'm inspired. I'm just inspired, you know? Yeah.
You said your mom was a dancer. Did you ever dance or dabble in dance?
Saigon. No. My mom does African and like modern and like jazz, but it's like a fusion of all that. It's dope. It's real dope. Yeah. 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 Yeah, well, you know, it's interesting because it's like, it's one of those things that doesn't go away. It's not like, oh, I'm cured, you know what I mean? Like, but I would say now it's much better than how it was in this book, you know what I mean? You know, I think and again, that's what I meant about, we weren't like the cause of it, but there are things that you can do to like, you know, mitigate that and make that experience like, you know, not so detrimental. And so I think a lot of like me and her relationship is like amazing, you know what I'm saying? I think that's part of like, you know, her coming around. I think also just learning how to live with it and learning how to deal with it and learning what not to do and what. So, you know, she's gotten a lot better. And then, yeah, so she's a lot better. She's still a choreographer. She teaches dance. And she's living and she's happy, you know, but like I said, it's not something that goes away, so I don't want to paint a sentence and say, oh, everything is peaches and cream, you know, it's something that she'll always live with, you know, and there's things that happened to her and things that she saw that I write about in this book, you know, that she writes about, that will never go away, and it will always kind of have an effect on who she is, you know. And so that's part of dealing with it. But the way that she's walking with it is there was a homeless man one day who asked me, he said, what is soul? And I was like, soul training. And he was like, no, soul is the graceful survival against impossible circumstances. So you asked about my mom and how she's doing, gracefully surviving against impossible circumstances, gracefully. So yeah. What else? Yeah. Filmmaker. Okay, that's a good question. So yeah, I've made 3 films and I'm working on 2 more films. I'm a Sundance Film Fellow, so I'm working with Sundance on the adaptation of this book right here, making it into a movie, which I'm real excited about. I also just got hired to write. Anybody know who Sylvia Robinson is? It's a damn shame, but you're gonna know who she is. Sylvia Robinson is the mother of hip hop. I mean, like really the mother of hip hop. In 1979, she was in Harlem World nightclub and she heard somebody rapping for the first time. Now, rapping had been going on like just in the clubs and in the parks, but no one had ever put a rap on a record, ever. So she heard this dude, Lovebug Skarsky, rapping and was like, she had an epiphany from God. She was like, if I put this rap shit on a record, it's going to be the biggest shit ever in the world in the history of music. She knew it. She was like, I have to put this on. But she didn't know any rappers. And every rapper at the time she went up to was like, oh, we don't want to record because who's going to buy a rap record? Like, it was not even thought of or heard of. Like, that was people, it was like something you did in a club or in a park, but not on a record. So nobody wanted to do it. So she asked her 17-year-old son, yo, where can I get some rappers? And he was like, I don't know, but there's some dudes that rap at the pizza store, right? And this is in Englewood, New Jersey. So they go to Englewood, New Jersey, where they live, and like, you know, you know how to rap? And dude's like, yeah, I can rap, you know, does a little rap. She's like, all right, you're in. You know how to rap? You're in, right? So recruits these dudes, like local young boys from the pizza store, and they start a little record label. She's like, you know what, I'm gonna call it Sugar Hill Records, since that's where I'm from, right? And they make a song called Rapper's Delight. It's a 15-minute song, and it starts out coining the phrase hip hop, right? Hip hop to the hip to the. So she makes this song and she plays it for her friends and her people. And one of her best friends, listens to the song and says, Sylvia, I can't believe you would stoop this low. I mean, it was like people were like upset, like this is trash. Like how could you? Like, and remember, there's no rap out. There's no such thing. There's no genre. Nobody knows about it. So this is a visionary, a pioneer. She's like, I'm gonna roll with it anyway. Puts the record out. It's a 15-minute song. Even today, this is unheard of. A radio station in Kansas City plays it. Within a month, they're shipping 50,000 units a day of this record called Rapper's Delight. 50,000 units a day, right, of Rapper's Delight. It became the biggest, most important hip hop song ever. And then, some people started to be critical of her. Say, oh, she, that song's all about fun and partying. It's not really a real serious song. Hip hop is supposed to have this seriousness to it, this political consciousness, this social consciousness. And so what does she do? She produces another song called The Message, right? It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder why I keep them going on. Probably the second most important hip hop song ever. Sylvia Robinson did all, why don't you know about her? That's sexism. Seriously, at its core, at its peak. Now we understand how sexism works in the society. You know who Russell Simmons is. You know who P. Diddy is. You don't know who Sylvia Robinson is. She started all this shit. She's the mother of all this, you know what I mean? She started all of this. So anyway, Paula Wagner, who is the Tom Cruise's longtime producing partner, she produced all the Mission Impossibles, War of the Worlds, all these big movies. She's producing the Sylvia Robinson movie, and I'm writing it. So that's another project I'm working on. So you asked, how did I get into that? I want to be a multilingual, each medium to me, whether I'm rapping to you, whether I'm writing a movie, whether I'm writing a book, those are just languages. Like Swahili is a language, French is a language, Spanish is a language. You can understand it if you speak that language or if you understand that language. So for me as an artist, I want to be multilingual. Like, oh, you don't read? Well, listen to this music. Oh, you don't listen to music? Well, who doesn't listen to music? But if you don't listen to music, okay, watch this movie. I want to be able to communicate in different languages and be multilingual. And the thing about language, for those of you who speak more than one language, you realize that as you learn more languages, your capacity to learn more languages grows, right? So learning another language gives you the capacity to learn another language, another one, and it kind of like has this snowball effect. Same thing with me. At this point, for me, whether it's a book or music or a movie or I'm writing an essay, I just wrote an essay for, I write essays sometimes for like the New York Times and stuff. Whether it's any of that, it's all kind of the same. Doesn't sound the same, but it's like, it's all coming from the same place. And I'm just kind of, sometimes like you get an idea, if you speak different languages, sometimes you get an idea and it's in Spanish, or you get an idea in some French, or you get an idea in Swahili. And you just decide what language you want to speak in at that moment. Sometimes I get an idea and I run it through all the languages. So I'll have an idea like Buck, which is a book, an album, right? Which comes out May 14th, and now a movie, right? So it's like that, it's like translation. I've created a project and then kind of translated it into all these different languages. So for me, film was just one of those languages that I wanted to learn, because I remember when I wrote my first book, it was this little tiny book, probably it was mad thin. And I was real happy about it, and I was in the Bronx in the projects with my cousin, and he was like, yo, I heard you got a book, you know what I mean? I was like, yo, you know what I mean? I was like feeling myself. He's like, I don't know why, the hood don't read. And he just crushed, how somebody can just crush your spirit? I was so hyped, and then he was just like Debbie Downer, he just took me all the way down. I'm thinking about it yo, those are some fresh kicks, by the way. But anyway, I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, he's got a point. There's a lot of people, not only who don't read, there's people who can't read. You know what I mean? Not even don't, but can't. That's a whole nother thing. You know what I'm saying? It's one thing to choose not to read, but I love what Sherman Alexie says, right? He says if you're rich and you don't read, you're an asshole. If you're poor and you don't read, you're fucked. You know what I'm saying? So make sure you read. But anyway, back to why I'm a filmmaker. So I wanted to speak in a language that people understood. What I realized though through writing Buck is that the hood does read. Right? The hood does read. There was this misconception that black people don't read, young people don't read, the hood doesn't read. All these misconceptions, that's not true. And I learned through Buck that it's about what you're offering. And are you writing something for them? You know what I'm saying? Are you writing something? And when I wrote Buck, I wrote it for my young bucks. You know, I wrote it for people who, like, one of the best compliments I ever received was a guy who runs a prison. He told me, I give your books to kids that hate reading. You know what I'm saying? Because it makes them readers. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's not that the only reason why they hate reading is the same reason why I hated reading. It's because what are you giving me to read? If I would have got Buck when I was, you know what I mean, 16, that would have been a totally different experience for me. You know, it would have got me, I would have not had to go through some of those things just because it would have automatically got me interested in reading. So anyway, film because I wanted to, you know, so the first film I made was a documentary in London. I was living in London, made a documentary. It came out, won a bunch of awards. I ended up going to UCLA film school. And I ended up starting to make films. I hooked up with Maya Angelou. We made a film called The Black Candle, which was a real great experience working with her because she's a filmmaker as well. She was a filmmaker. She was one of the first African-American women to direct a feature film, to write a feature screenplay, all these things. So I just got into it by doing it. My whole thing to anybody who wants to do something is just do it. You know what I mean? Just jump in there, do it, make mistakes, learn from your mistakes, and grow. That's pretty much how you do things. So, and now, you know, like I said, now I just got hired to write this big movie about Sylvia Robinson, and I'm working on the Buck movie with Sundance. So that's kind of how I got into it, man. And I'm also a professor of film, and I teach it. So that actually keeps me fresh. You know, when I teach it, it kind of helps me. Teaching isn't just for other people, it's also for yourself, you know what I mean? And so sometimes, like, by teaching it, it keeps me fresh, it keeps me on my toes, and it inspires me. So that's kind of how I got into it, though. Yeah.
I want to ask a question about the teaching.
Okay.
In your first book, Living Hip Hop,
Uh-huh.
talk about your first day of teaching, how you were driving to school, you saw the dad drive out the street, and you go to school and you're telling your students, you guys know what happened to this dude, and they're like, happened every day, like they had no emotion about it. And that's what I experienced in the classroom with my students. Like, I assigned that book, I assigned Buck this semester,
Okay.
hoping to inspire them to stand in their own truths and be vulnerable and write out their lives. But what I have found is that students are so distracted by their smartphones and iPads and what so-and-so is doing, and that I can't get them to, like, focus and, you know, do something. So what do you do to inspire your students?
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, we definitely live in very distracting times. You know, I feel like there's a professor, I think, who was doing like a live tweet thing yesterday. Who was that? Oh, was that you?
Yeah.
That's your class?
Yeah.
It was called, what's the class called?
It's the Africana Studies Oral Communication, and we were reading from your first book.
Okay.
2 sets of notes.
Okay, word. So, to me, that was a great idea. I got off the plane somewhere, and I was in Portland, and I saw all these time on my timeline, this whole class is having a conversation and dialogue and stuff. And you know, that's kind of the thing. We got to meet them where they are. So if they're on Twitter and Instagram and all that, we got to be on there and find ways to integrate what we're trying to do into that, because they're already there and they're not going back. It's only going. It's not, and that stuff is you know. So I think integrating, you know, using the technology to our advantage. You know what I'm saying, and not seeing it as a threat, not seeing it as something that's taking away, but seeing it as an opportunity. how can we use this to do what we're trying to do and further their, because there's a way to do that. And I think that's one of the things I actually always loved about the WorldBeat Center, actually. Like right now, this is being streamed on YouTube live, you know what I'm saying? And like people are seeing it. I just think, like from the first time I came here at the WorldBeat, which was like in 2008, 2009, I guess Makeda's not here today? She is? Oh, she's in the back. I remember she interviewed me and was telling me, she was telling me about YouTube, and this was like back in the day when it wasn't really popping like that. She just always seemed to be very invested in how technology is going to help further what they're doing in here. And I think that's important, you know what I mean? Because, like I said, the technology is here to stay. It's only getting more rapid and more advanced, so we gotta kind of embrace it and figure out how we can integrate what we're doing into it. Because there are ways, I've seen, like, what I've done, like certain things on social media, integrated with Buck. I've seen a lot of response, a lot of people getting involved, a lot of young people getting involved who are on social media doing all types of other stuff, but then they're doing, when it comes to Buck, they're writing really insightful posts, and they're reflecting, and they're just being introspective and doing all types of stuff that's really positive on there. So it's not just something that can be distracting and just something that's kind of like a time waster. It can also be like educational, and I've seen a lot of people use it in educational ways, and I think, that could be done too, so. Other questions, comments? Yeah.
You talked about like you travel a lot. Like, how old were you when you first went to Africa or went somewhere? And like, what made you like want to do stuff like that? Like you said, you're going to go to find your
Yeah. Well, I was born in Zimbabwe, and like I said, my parents are from America, but I was born in Zimbabwe. They were over there as freedom fighters and working over there. So I was born in another country. I think that kind of automatically. I mean, I spent the first 3 years of my life in Zimbabwe. Actually, my dad was in America. My brother was in America. My mom was on a dance tour, like throughout the world, pretty much. She was the director of the National Dance Company of Zimbabwe, actually. So she was on a tour. They had just got their independence. She was in Australia, Europe, and I was in Zimbabwe. And so that was my first language was Shona, which is the language they speak in Zimbabwe. So I think I was born overseas. But the first time I left the country was at the end of Buck, actually. So I was 18. That was the first time, and I think that pretty much gave me a bug. Also, throughout. So then I went to school in London, and then when I went to school in America first, but then I did a year abroad in London. When I was in London, I went to Germany, I went to France, I went to Amsterdam, I went to all types of other places, in Europe. And then I began to travel, I began to like produce work, and it began to take me places, So a lot of the traveling I've done has been for work. Books, films, stuff like that. People have brought me there, or I've gone there to make films. Like 500 years later is a film we made. It's my first film we made. We traveled to like 20 countries. I didn't travel personally to 20 countries on that film. I traveled probably to about 8 or 9 countries for that film. Other film, The Black Candle, we traveled to a few countries. And then I got hired by the Department of State to be a film expert all over Africa. So Malawi, Uganda, Kenya, Zambia, Namibia, all these different places, Lesotho, Swaziland, I went to as a film expert and basically helped develop the film industries in those countries. And then South America, events in South America and Brazil and Venezuela. So, it just really, by doing what I love, it's just like created opportunities to see the world, and by just, so that's kind of how it happened. And what else? Yeah. I don't know. I never answer questions like that, because how would I know? You can't say things like, oh, I would be in the streets, I would be locked up. Like, who knows? I could be a dentist. I don't know. You know what I mean? I really don't know. I know that what I'm doing now in a lot of ways saved my life, but I don't know what I would be doing. I don't know what other opportunities or what other epiphanies would have happened or what, who knows? So I'm just thankful that my purpose found me, and I pursued it, and I didn't, fear is something that I think like holds us back a lot of times, being scared of whatever, being fearful, and I've gotten to a place in my life where I've eliminated that fear, and I think that's the most important thing for me, is eliminating that fear, and I don't know in other things how I would have gotten there or what would have happened, but for me that's one of the most important things, is eliminating that fear, because that's why in that little thing I spit to you, I said, fuck fear and doubt, always been the devil. I feel like fear and doubt are just, they hold us back, it's the devil. I saw a hand over here, yeah.
I wanted to ask you, what would you tell someone who's trying to write their own story, write their own memoir? What advice would you give?
It's interesting. One of the other bucks is, I said young buck, buck wild, buck shots, buck town, slave buck, black buck, make buck, buck now. But another buck is buck naked, right? Bucky naked. I remember Bernie Mac. He used to say buck. But buck naked, because when you write a memoir, it really is like exposing yourself. You're buck naked. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody can see your flaws, the things you don't want people to see, or whatever. Like, it's all kind of visible. So you're vulnerable. And I think one of the things I realized writing this memoir was that a lot of times we associate vulnerability with weakness, but that vulnerability actually became my strength. You know what I mean? And it becomes your strength. And to recognize that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's strength. And to use that as fuel, use that as your charge. The other thing I would say about writing a memoir, I think one of the first things is to recognize and realize that your voice is important. And that, sometimes we think this is what I thought. Like, I went through a lot of phases when I was writing this book. I went through a phase where I was kind of like, yo, who's gonna read this? Like, nobody really cares about, my story. Like, and you go through that questioning, like, man, nobody, and people say, yo, you're writing a memoir? How old are you? You know what I'm saying? Like this kid yesterday in Portland, he asked his mom, is he a grown-up? So you think man, my story is not really that important, or there's everybody got a story, so why are people gonna, you know what I'm saying? Like, what's up with my story? So, but you start to realize that, and the more I start to realize, wow, everybody, you have a really unique story. And even though everyone has a story, the way you tell your story is going to be different, obviously. And so kind of starting to recognize the power in your own story, recognizing that it's a story that needs to be told. You know what I mean? When I was struggling with this memoir, I went to Dr. Maya Angelou's house, Auntie Maya's house. And I was at Auntie Maya's house in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and I told her, I was sitting there, we were talking about other stuff. And I'm sitting there with her, and it just dawned on me, because I was at a real bad place at that time in the book. I didn't even feel like I was going to be able to finish it. I didn't feel like I felt like I got myself into something that I wasn't able to really deliver. And I told Auntie Maya, I'm like, I got this book deal, Random House, and I don't think I could really deliver, And she said, well, what's the problem? I said, I'm just having all these difficulties. And she said, honey, just tell the truth. She said, if you tell the truth, it's going to connect with everybody, no matter what race, nationality, gender, whatever. Just tell the truth. She said the truth breaks down all those barriers. She says the truth is not focusing on all the little details. Oh, I was on this street, on this date, at this time, and da-da-da-da. She said nobody really cares about that. She said the truth is how you felt. The truth is how you were transformed, how you were changed. The truth is what you did. The truth is, the feeling, the emotion, the emotional truth, the universal truth. So she told me that. She quoted the poet Terence. She said, I am a human being, therefore nothing human is alien to me. So don't ever be afraid in any situation. Don't ever feel like you don't belong. You belong. Nothing is alien to you. This is all part of you. So don't ever feel like that's not, you know. She told me that, what else did she tell me that day? Because it's all one day. She told me charisma. Told me about charisma. She said charisma is when you walk into the room with all of the positive energy, all of the beautiful art you've ever seen in your life, all of the people that have touched you, all of the music that inspired you, everything. You walk in with your grandma, your great-grandma, your great-great-great-great, all of that. You walk in the room with all that, and people were like, yo, she's got charisma. And I was actually, that day that she told me this, I was speaking at Wake Forest University, and she told me, she said, you're speaking at Wake Forest tonight, right? I said, yeah. She said, I won't be able to go, but bring me with you. And I was like, all right, cool. And then the one last thing she taught me that day about writing a memoir, they had just made this BET special about her. And she was like, did you see the BET special on me? And I was like, no, I didn't see it. And she was like, let's watch it. And I was like, all right, cool. So we sat there, and her assistant put it on, and me and Auntie Maya, we watched this beautiful BET tribute to her. And it got to this point, right, where they had like the Wayans brothers, and I think maybe Tyler Perry and some other people, Mad TV, Saturday Night Live, all these like compilation of all the parodies about Dr. Maya Angelou. And they were all like, none of them were flattering, you know what I'm saying? They were like kind of going in a little bit on her, you know what I'm saying? Like it was men dressed up as her, you know, just saying whatever, you know what I'm saying? It was kind of like borderline disrespectful, you know what I mean? And I'm sitting there watching it with her. And she looks over at me, and she just started busting out laughing. And then I started laughing, you know what I'm saying? Because it was okay to laugh, like I didn't know. I mean, I wanted to laugh, the shit was funny, but you know, it's like when somebody falls, you gotta make sure they're okay first. Like, yo, you good? Ah! So anyway, we just started busting out laughing, and I think what she taught me there was that you can't take yourself too seriously, no matter who you are, you know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta be able to understand that, you know, laugh at yourself a little bit. So, that's what she taught me, and I think that's like some of the best advice I would ever give to anybody writing a memoir. Tell the truth, don't be afraid, you know, laugh at yourself a little bit, and have charisma. Bring everybody with you. Like when you read Buck, you're not just reading my story. This is Uzi's story, this is D-Rock's story, this is Bone's story, this is Damien's story, this is Amir's story, this is like a lot of people's story. I'm bringing all of them with me. Thank you. So, I think, is it book signing time yet? Or anybody have any other last question? Yeah.
I have two questions.
Okay.
What's your opinion on school and what's your opinion on knowledge?
What's my opinion on school and knowledge? That's a good question. My opinion on school is, it can be a great place. If there's education going on, like the educators that are here and that are teaching like Buck and doing all these innovative things in their curriculum, like I think that's like represents like the best of school. Like when you get, like I've been in classes in school, like the class where I had the blank page. That's an experience in school that helped shape my life, you know what I mean? I've also had experiences in school that were horrible, you know what I'm saying? So it's really like what you make it and what you bring to it. True education is about what you bring to it, you know what I mean? True education isn't sitting back and someone educating you. It's always gonna be what you're bringing to it and your energy, and a lot of times you're gonna have to take the initiative if you really wanna be educated, you know what I mean? I was at UCLA Film School. They didn't know anything about black filmmakers. They didn't know anything about Oscar Michaud. They didn't even know who Oscar Michaud was. He's the first black filmmaker, you know what I mean? The first person of color to ever make a film. I had to go to the libraries and educate myself on who Oscar Michaud was, who Spencer Williams was, who Paul Robeson was, because they weren't gonna do it because they didn't know. So you have to understand that you can be in a school situation, you can be at a good school, and they still won't know what you might need for yourself to understand who you are. So you gotta take the initiative, and that's what knowledge is. It's like you taking the initiative, knowing the ledge. Oh, hey, Makeda. But yeah, so that's my opinion on school and knowledge. Yeah. I mean, it's a bunch of things, but you know, I would say, first of all, they gotta like hang in there. Like there's always that like hang in there. Like it's about like survive. You know what I mean? That's like important. You know, because a lot of times we give up. Don't give up. You know what I mean? Like don't give up. I remember. This is a random story, but I went to a football game at UCLA. It was like when I first went to the school, I was being like kind of recruited to go there. They took me to a football game, and at halftime, UCLA was losing by like 40 points. And I was like, I told my homie like, yo, if they don't start like making any moves, then we're just gonna leave early so we don't get all the traffic, you know what I'm saying? So first play of the game, the other team scored again. We're like, I'm like, yo, we out, man. This is a wrap. So we left. That night, we turned on SportsCenter. First story was like, the most amazing comeback in football history. Like, and it was crazy. Like, they came back and won this game, and, you know, don't give up. Like, you just can't give up. You never know. So that's the number one thing. Related to what the professor asked, you know, what you asked, eliminate distractions, create energy, fear nothing, and attack all opportunities. Eliminate distractions, create energy, fear nothing, and attack all opportunities. That's what I would tell them.
Last thing, you know what I want, right?
What's that? Oh, 2 sets of notes. All right, cool. So I'm gonna do this piece. It's called 2 Sets of Notes. It's a poem that I wrote a long time ago, but it's still relevant today, as you can see. And it goes like this. I find myself, first of all, before I get into the piece, you guys ever been in school, in a school situation, in class, and you felt like it was just, what was being taught was just some bull? Like when they told you Columbus discovered America, and you're like, hold up, how is that possible? If there was people already here. You know? Like if I come into your crib and discover it. Like, what? So I wrote this piece when I was in school, and I was feeling a lot of those emotions. It goes like this. I find myself feeling as if I'm touching the ground and the ceiling. In schools that don't engage in healing, nah, they simply open the wounds and entrap me in rooms where I am consumed by hypocrisy. But hold up. Even Greek philosophers weren't the authors of their own philosophies. And the statues on campus be watching me. Washington, Jefferson, Williams clocking me as if to say, my time's up. But I don't run laps on track. See, I run laps around the scholars of tomorrow because their new schools of thought, merely our history is borrowed. And they label me militant and black national radical. Yo, they try to put my learning process on sabbatical. But I don't apologize. I spit truth into those eyes that have been infected by those lies. Then they tried to get me to see their point of view from a cat that looked like me. But he don't walk like me, talk like me, or act like me. And homie started running when I asked if he was black like me. Mastering their thoughts and forgetting our own. And you wonder why we always feel alone. From the media to academia, hanging brothers like coats. That's why in they schools, I always take 2 sets of notes. One set to ace the test, and the other set I call the truth. And when I find historical contradictions, I use that first set as proof. Proof that black youth's minds are being polluted, convoluted, diluted, not culturally rooted in anything except the Western massacre. That's why most of us in school, we were scared of Africa. We viewed our mother's land through the eyes of racists like David Hume and Immanuel Kant. Not knowing Immanuel Kant tell me nothing about a land he's never seen, a land rich with history, beautiful kings and queens. But they had us believe otherwise. The history they taught built on high-rise lies. They didn't teach us that the pyramids were completed before Greece and Rome were conceptualized. Then they tried to claim the Egyptians' race was a mystery. And I used to believe them until I went to Egypt and read Herodotus, book 2 of the histories. Can it be any clearer? Black students, look in the mirror. We are a reflection of divinity. Don't let them fool you with selective memory. Walk high, listen to the elders who spoke. Black students, brown students, all students. Always take 2 sets of notes. Thank you.
Just when you think of that, that you are brilliant, that you are powerful, that you are valuable, and that your life matters. I want everyone to stand, and I want you to say out loud, I am beautiful.
I am beautiful.
I am brilliant.
I am brilliant.
I am valuable.
I am valuable.
I am powerful.
I am powerful.
And my life matters.
And my life matters.
So it is. You know, I want you to buy a book. If you don't have it, buy it for yourself. If you have it, someone asks, what do you do with those people that you love that are turned off from life, turned off from school, turned off from their own genius? You provide them with something that can spark it back in them again. And that's why we require it for all of our students. It was a miracle getting him here. We had 1 month to do it. Everyone said it was impossible. I want you to look at the impossible. I want Makeda to please come up. You have to come up here a little bit. Right here. Okay.
Thank you.
Because this is the space that she created for us to express ourselves. So when you want to have an event or you want to come to some usually free events,
Like
Mama
Earth
Makeda
Day.
has provided this amazing place for us to be ourselves and to recognize our oneness with all nations, with all people. We are the same people. And when we know that and understand that, we'll stop talking about races and we will tackle and transform racism. And of course, Takima Ma'asa Mesa College Black Studies Department, take some classes, like I was saying. Thank you so very much. On Wednesday, we're going to be doing this again at the Jacobs Center in Market Creek Plaza. If you've been inspired at all, tell a friend, tell a friend. 6 to 8, Jacobs Center. Thank you. Book signing, line up, get your book.
Maybe Wednesday. Okay.
Okay, but I have